Hi, good day, everyone. Welcome to our presentation on emergency preparedness and how we manage for public safety. My name is Peter Dalton, and I lead a team of security and emergency management professionals here at the BC Oil and Gas Commission. My own background includes over 20 years of engineering, frontline and industrial type firefighting and hazmat experience, coupled with my incident management work with the province that began with the Okanagan fires back in 2003. I've worked on incident planning and management for fires, floods, landslides, avian influenza, and other assorted disasters of both the natural and human-caused kind in both provincial and federal capacities before I joined the Commission in 2014. So just a couple of quick housekeeping notes here. If you have any questions, there's an email that you can address them to, and we'll do our best to get back to you as promptly as we can. Anybody that would like, we can email you a link to the presentation so that you can share that with anybody else. We do thank you for your participation and interest in the Commission. So just a quick overview. During the webinar, we're going to look at the oil and gas operations and some of the work we do at the Commission that contributes to public safety. We'll start with a quick look at who we are and how we ensure that oil and gas operators are trained and prepared to manage potential incidents or respond to natural disasters affecting their operations. Finally, we'll look at some of the new ways that we're reaching out to communities where oil and gas activities are taking place and how we're working with first responders and others to support the dialogue on safety. Although we've been regulating oil and gas exploration and transmission processing in BC for over 20 years, for some who are listening to this presentation, this might be your first time learning about us. While most of the activities we regulate are in the northeast part of the province, just about every community makes use of the gas for heating or oil in their cars and public transit. Pipelines can also be found in many parts of BC, and liquefied natural gas sites in the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island help meet demand on colder days. Members of the Commission team oversee all of these activities from our offices in Fort Nelson, Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, Prince George, Terrace, Kelowna, and Victoria. So, the Commission has delegated authority to oversee compliance with the Environmental Management Act as it applies to oil and gas operations. This allows an oil or gas company to obtain all the necessary permits with common regulatory oversight. We also issue forestry permits to allow for site preparation or road building and oversee restoration, including reforestation of those places at the end of an activity. We also issue permits under the Water Sustainability Act. Post-permitting, the Commission conducts ongoing inspections and checks for regulatory compliance during construction, operations, and then onto restoration and reclamation activities, which ensures that spills and industrial use sites are returned to the highest environmental standards. The best incident management is preventing them from happening in the first place. Our engineering team oversees the integrity management programs of every permit holder. Integrity management is the routine examination, maintenance, and record keeping that underlies the safe operation of wells, pipelines, and facilities across the province. In the photo shown at right, you'll see a crew loading a smart pig into a line where it'll be used to locate and record any potential problems in the integrity of the line so that necessary repairs can be conducted. We've looked at some of the ways that we check permit holder compliance with permit conditions and regulations in the environmental and engineering worlds. So let's take a quick look at what it is that we do regulate. Petroleum development begins at the well site, from drilling to production. And while we're looking at wells, the Commission also permits and regulates geothermal wells, which are a source of green energy now being explored within BC. Oil and gas need to be processed. This includes separation of water and gases such as carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide, then compression or pumping to move the product through a pipeline, and final processing and storage, such as in liquefied natural gas form. Any pipeline and directly associated infrastructure that carries an oil or gas product across a provincial or national border is regulated by the National Energy Board. All other oil and gas transmission operations are regulated provincially through the BC Oil and Gas Commission, although there are a few exceptions to what we regulate within the province. We just looked at what we do regulate, but it's also useful to know what we don't. Your local gas station, the natural gas that's delivered to your home, or a fuel truck in a highway accident are overseen by other agencies. Now, just a bit earlier, I mentioned several of the key groups in the Commission. I'd like to come back to my own team, the Security and Emergency Management Branch. Some of the areas where we support public safety include gathering and review of post-incident data, supporting engineering and environmental assessments, and ensuring any incidents were properly managed, communicating deficiencies to permit holders, and coordinating with oil and gas operators for natural disaster and security-related incidents. Oil and gas operations are highly regulated and use a combination of legislation, regulations, and standards. These provide us with the measures by which we inspect and evaluate every permit holder's activities. Since I'm focusing on public safety, I've just listed these three that are the most relevant for the discussions today. While we're looking at the regulations behind public safety, I think there are a couple of important points to note. Legislation is a function of elected government. National standards are developed collaboratively with multiple regulators, subject matter experts, and public input. Our most recent update to the Emergency Management Regulation directed all companies to use ICS, the Incident Command System. Please keep this in mind since we'll be coming back to it a bit later to see why this became one of the most important changes in our regulation. I also want to provide a quick snapshot of some of the work our branch routinely manages, such as reviewing emergency management plans and attending company exercises, which I'll talk more about in just a moment. And a bit later on, I'll also dive a bit deeper into our role, both preparing for and actions during natural disaster events. We see emergency response exercises as a very effective way to test plans, confirm operator competencies, and build confidence, our confidence in the operator and the responders' confidence in their ability to manage a worst-case situation. Our review process begins by examining prior year exercises and highlighting any areas identified for improvement. Next, we look at the scenario that will be used, making sure that it doesn't repeat any other recent exercises and that it provides a robust test of the responder team. Once we're on site, we look at three essential elements: responder safety, public safety, and environmental protection. Some people may wonder why public safety isn't listed first, and we do consider public safety to be of the highest priority, but our view, and it's one that's widely shared by emergency management professionals everywhere, is if the team responding to an incident is injured, who's then able to protect the public? Within the Commission, we also train and exercise to be ready in the event of any incidents. In addition to the Emergency Management Branch, all field inspectors and technical advisors have completed formal emergency management training, and our Emergency Operations Center has immediate access to all permit holder plans, maps, and other critical information. Let's take a look now at how we begin managing an incident. Our first point of contact is our duty emergency officer, on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Working in collaboration with Emergency Management BC's call center, the emergency officer begins our response to any public complaints or permit holder incidents. When a call is received, the EO, emergency officer, provides a first assessment of the situation. Urgent issues such as a noise or odor complaint see a field inspector immediately dispatched to investigate, while less urgent complaints such as a dust or lease site maintenance issue see a visit to the site within 2 working days. And sometimes it's clear that the concern should be addressed by another agency, so a referral is made to ensure that the complaint is properly investigated. While most complaints and incidents can be quickly resolved, The Commission's own Emergency Operations Centre can be activated to oversee large-scale incidents and natural disasters. Additional resources, staff for our EOC, additional field personnel, and specialized tools such as our drones and portable air quality monitors can be quickly deployed. Just a bit earlier, I mentioned the acts and regulations that direct permit holders. These also provide the Commission with special emergency powers to protect the public and environment, including the ability to direct any permit holder, their staff, and equipment to respond to any incident, theirs or that of any other permit holder. Our roaming air monitor can be used to track down the source of odors or provide a safety check between an incident location and any public, with sensors for hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, and hydrocarbons capable of measurements to part per billion levels, tracking weather conditions, and even fine particulates like soot. The RAM is a sophisticated resource that has also helped track air quality issues during wildfires. Commission staff have provided critical support for natural disasters, and not just for industry. Since 2014, Emergency Management BC have made use of our experienced staff in planning, operations, and other roles during fire and flood seasons, helping communities across the province. In 2016, more than 70 early spring fires in the northeast part of the province affected 60 different permit holders. The Commission provided coordination between wildfire crews and industry and ensured each company was taking action to protect staff and minimize the risks to their equipment. I'm going to come back now to one of the changes to regulation that I mentioned earlier, our adoption of the Incident Command System. In 2017, during what was then BC's worst wildfire season on record, provincial and regional emergency response staff were exhausted and close to being overwhelmed. Every week seemed to bring on growing fires, new fires, and more communities being threatened. ICS, the Incident Command System mandated in our regulation change, is the same system used not only by provincial emergency managers, but also by many national and international agencies. With industry's adoption of ICS, several senior emergency management professionals from companies were able to step into provincial roles, overseeing and coordinating protection and planning for critical infrastructures that all of our communities depend on. So far, we've looked at how we regulate industry and how engineering and environmental staff at the Commission review the way equipment is monitored and maintained, and how sites are restored after an activity or incident. We've reviewed how effective emergency management plans are tested and how this training can be applied to incidents and natural disasters. I want to wrap up by looking at some of our recent projects to more directly engage with communities where oil and gas activities are taking place. Beginning in late 2017, Commission emergency management staff have provided safety and site familiarization briefings to police departments and hosted seasonal hazard planning and coordination meetings for both communities and industry in the Peace River area. In the fall of 2018, the Commission and Emergency Management BC collaboratively delivered our first emergency management training pilot that brought together people new to emergency management from communities, First Nations, and industry to collaboratively learn the basics and develop an understanding of the needs and concerns of each group, and to look at how the unique knowledge and resources of each could support the overall response to a major incident. During scenario-based training on the second day, each of the learner groups had a very experienced emergency management practitioner from their sector to use as a resource, and also to see how collaboration was being modeled between these experts. We've now completed 2 of these sessions, and the feedback from both has been overwhelmingly positive from all participants. The ALP, or Aboriginal Liaison Program, is a partnership between Indigenous communities in northern BC, the Commission, and other provincial natural resource agencies. Initiated by the Commission and Dwight River First Nation in 2014, the Ministry of Forests, Lands and Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development now leads the program, with ongoing support from the Commission. Partnering First Nation communities have a local member as a monitor to observe and report to their communities about resource development activities on their traditional territories. The ALP provides training opportunities to improve liaisons' knowledge and understanding of development activities and impacts, as well as enabling them to inform their community members with objective, reliable, and sound information. Program participants are now supporting disaster response as liaisons between their emergency managers and communities. The Commission's commitment to safety and protection of the environment can be found in our work with the Common Ground Alliance, an industry-led group that focuses on educating contractors, homeowners, and other groups about the importance of locating underground infrastructure before digging. We've also brought staff from Northern Health and other agencies on visits to oil and gas sites to observe exercises so that they have a better understanding of these activities. We're working with Northern Lights College and their oil field operator program, inviting students to observe well site abandonment and restoration processes and developing safety presentations for their classes. At the Commission, safety is our top priority. As we've looked at today, we support this through a number of processes, including audits, evaluations, and checks of all permit holders, and by ensuring our own staff have the tools and knowledge necessary to oversee any incident should they occur. We maintain our skills with continuous learning and by actively supporting the province's response to natural disasters. I hope that today's presentation has given you an opportunity to learn more about us and on how we're meeting our commitments to British Columbians. That's it for my presentation today, except to thank each of you for your time and interest. We are happy to take questions, and please email us, and we'll do our best to follow up promptly. Thank you very much.